In this demo, I'm going to be explaining the functionality of matching a user to another user. So matching a learner to a mentor in my application. So basically, when you think of other platforms like Facebook, you send a friend request to someone else, and that person, which is the receiver, receives that request and they can accept it. And when they accept it, they accept the friend request, and now you have a new friend on Facebook. On Instagram, you send follow requests and you follow each other back, and then you have new followers. So I've incorporated a similar functionality in my application, where a learner can send a match request to a mentor. That mentor can accept that request, and then that mentor now is that learner's mentor, and they can guide them and help them figure out what career they want. Or it can be the other way around, where a mentor sends a match request to a learner, then it's up to that learner to accept or reject that request. So let's have a look at how that works in my code and how I incorporated that. So I have imported match routes and match request routes to help with the matching process. Then here I have basically these two API endpoints, API match and API match request endpoint. Then I have this model here, match.js. So this model, it has the structure of data, which stores an established mentor-learner connection. So over here we have the mentor here and the learner that mentor is matched with and the date they are matched on. Then I have this schema, this model, match request, and basically this model is basically storing the request from one user to another user to start a mentorship. So here we have from, this key value pair from represents the user who's sending a request. This to represents the user who's receiving the request. Status is basically the status of the request currently, whether it's pending, accepted, or rejected, and the date the request was made. Then I have my matching routes. So these routes, these endpoints are basically hits and certain controllers are called. So over here, a get request is sent to this mentor's endpoint, and match mentor's controller runs. Then this get request is sent to this learner's endpoint, where match learner's controller runs. And then I have this get request sent to my matches, where get my matches runs. And this delete over here is basically helping with unmatching two users, basically. And this hit endpoint is basically hit, and this unmatch user controller runs. So then I also have my match request routes. This is basically the routes that deal with requests being sent to another user and requests being responded to, whether they're accepted or rejected, and also getting specific or getting all the matches that a user has on the front end. Then I have my controllers. So here I have my matching controllers. This is basically handling the functionalities of bringing potential mentors. So if a learner wants mentors to match with, this controller brings all those mentors they can potentially match with. And essentially it basically just checks if the learner is, or if the user is actually a learner, and if they are, this filter method is gonna basically filter out all mentors based off interest and locations, and then the user or the learner will receive all the potential mentors they can match with. Then match learners works the same. It just works in reverse, where a mentor is looking to match with specific learners. So when they click the match learners button, firstly checks if the user is actually a mentor, and if they are, they can basically find learners that have the same interest and location as them as a potential match. Then I have this create match controller. It's basically updating both the user status. So firstly, it creates a match over here using match.create, and as you can see here, it matches the mentor and the learner together. And then when a mentor and a learner are matched, the status of the mentor gets set to matched. The status of the learner gets set to matched as well. Then we have get my matches controller over here. This is handling the functionality of retrieving all the matches that a specific mentor has or that a specific learner has. So yeah, that's what that does, and it just res.json returns all the matches that specific user has, essentially. So firstly, here in this if statement, if the user is a learner, then it's gonna find that specific match in the database, and then it brings those matches. If the user is basically a mentor, then it finds all the matches for that mentor, essentially. Then we have this unmatched controller over here. It's just basically gonna update both the user status to unmatched after a user unmatches with another user. So basically how a user can get unmatched to another user, we basically use this find by ID and delete method. So I placed this here, which basically is gonna find the user that is matched with that specific user and delete that specific match. So if we go to the match model over here, this match model is basically storing the connection between a mentor and a learner. So basically when a mentor unmatches with a learner or a learner unmatches with a mentor, we basically delete that specific match, and then they're no longer matched together. So those are the controllers in my matching controller file. Then I have this match request controller. So firstly, I have the send request controller, which is basically handling the functionality of sending a request to another user. So basically here, this is the line of code that basically creates the request that is sent to another user. So it uses this match request model, and it uses this create method. So it's gonna create a new match request and save that to this request variable, and then it returns that request that was made. So this request basically gets saved to the database. So that's for sending a request. Then when a request is sent, the other user has the option to respond to that request. They can either accept or reject that request. If they ignore it, then the request will be left as pending. So this is the respond request controller. It handles the functionality of responding to a specific request. So basically when that request is sent and when you want to respond to that request, find by ID method is gonna go find that specific match request, and when that request is found, then basically the user has the option to accept, reject, or ignore the request. So if the request is accepted, then the request status changes to accepted. Right. So if I go back to my model, match request model, as you can see here, we have this key value pair status, and it has these values. And over here we have this array. So this array has different options. Pending, meaning that the request is hasn't been responded to yet. Accepted or rejected. If the user accepts it, like we saw now, then this is what gets saved essentially. So yeah, that works with a user accepting a request. Then here, basically this is just preventing a learner from having multiple mentors. So I built this because a learner should only have one mentor to mentor them and guide them on figuring out a specific career. Whereas a mentor can have multiple learners, because a lot of learners need mentors on their application basically. Then here I'm just updating the user document, and it basically sets the statuses over here, as you can see. And once that's done, the request gets saved. The newly updated request basically gets saved in the database. And here we see a JSON format response showing this message that the request was accepted successfully. But here, if the action is a reject, so as you can see, firstly, in this if statement, it's basically saying if the request is accepted, then all of that runs, where that request gets saved to the database and all that update happens. But if the action is a reject, then that means we're gonna find that specific match request, right, in the database, and then we delete that request. Because if it's rejected, then that means the request is no longer valid, so it's no longer gonna be in the database, so we delete it. And it shows that the message, the request was rejected and removed. That is the controller that handles responding to a request. Then lastly, I have a list request controller. This is basically just to list all the requests that a user has, or all the requests that a user has not responded to yet. So it uses the find method to find a specific request in the database, and when that request is found, then basically we return those requests in the front end basically. So but in this case, in the back end, it shows a JSON response showing all the requests that that user has or hasn't responded to yet. So that's basically how the matching system in my backend works. So now let's have a look at the React front end. So yeah, so here I have this component mentor matches. So basically this component is just going to show a page which essentially displays all the matches that a specific mentor has essentially. So we can see here it's going to show basically all the learners that that specific mentor has. And here you can see the date that the mentor was matched with that specific learner on. The option to view a profile, and the option to unmatch with that specific user. Then here, this is basically a method that confirms the unmatch functionality. So let's say a user wants to let's say a mentor wants to unmatch with a learner, then confirm unmatch is basically gonna run. So when they click this unmatch button, this runs, and as I showed in the back end, it deletes that specific request. But in this case, it uses this delete method, and that is sent to this endpoint to delete that specific matched request. But because this component is basically rendering all the matches that specific mentor has, this fetch matches method is basically what handles that for all the mentor matches to be shown in the front end. So all the learners that mentor is matched with to be shown in the front end. So an API GET request is sent to this endpoint, match / my matches. Then set matches is gonna change the state of data in this variable, and it's gonna store in this list all the matches that specific mentor has, and all those matches are rendered as a list in the front end using matches.map over here, and then it shows all those mentors or all those learners that mentor has essentially. So just to show the connection, you can see here matches.map is basically what lists all those learners in the front end, because matches is the array that's gonna basically store all those learners that mentor has essentially. That's the mentor matches component. This is a mentor card component. It's just gonna show a specific profile card of a mentor, and it has the option to go to that specific profile. So on the card, you can click a specific button to go to that specific profile. Then this go to profile runs, and then this method just navigates to that mentor's profile. Then here I have my match mentors component. So as I discussed in my back end, when a learner is logged in and they want to match with a specific mentor, they can basically find all potential mentors that they can match with based off similar interests and location. So when that happens, this component is shown. So this page is basically shown. It's basically bringing back the mentors, it's basically bringing back all the mentor cards that specific learner can match with. So here it then shows a view profile button with an option to view that specific mentor's profile, and then this is the button to send a match request. So basically, when this button is clicked, a request is sent. So here's the post request sent to this match request / request, and then it shows, and then the request is sent to that mentor ID. So as soon as this send match request button is clicked, that request is sent to this endpoint for that specific user that is receiving the request. And basically the user receives that request, and then they have the option to respond or accept that request and so on. But in order to bring the potential matches, this is the hook that runs, and it's gonna fetch all the mentors. Then here it sends that get request to this endpoint, and then set mentors runs, which basically changes the state of data in this variable, and it stores that in this array. So it brings back all the potential mentors that a learner can match with, essentially. Then I have this learner matches component. This works the same as mentor matches, essentially, except it's for a logged in user that is a learner. So when a user is logged in as a learner and they have a mentor as a match, they can basically check who their match is. So when they click a specific button, it basically brings back this page over here, which is just gonna show the mentor that they are matched with, essentially. And it shows the option to unmatch with that specific mentor, and when they unmatch with that mentor, this runs, essentially, and then they get unmatched. This is the function that fetches all the matches that the learner has, which in this case is just one match because a learner can only have one mentor. Then I have my match learners component. Match learners is basically similar to this match mentors component, but for a specific learner, for a specific mentor, when they want to find potential learners to match with, essentially, then this is the page that comes up. This page is going to show a list of all the learners that mentor can potentially match with because they have the same interests as that mentor. And you can see here it uses map, so learners.map to basically list all those potential learners the mentor can match with. And this is basically showing basically the card for a learner and the option to go to that specific profile of that learner. So that's basically how my functionality for my back end and my front end work when it comes to the matching process in my application. So let's actually have a look at how that actually works in the application itself. So right now I'm logged in as a learner, as you can see. So I'm gonna basically show how the matching process works. So firstly, now that I'm logged in as a learner, I probably want to find potential matches to match with. So potential mentors that I can match with as a learner. So when I click this match mentors button, what happens is it brings back potential mentors that I can match with. So we can see here's a mentor that I can send a request to. So when I send this match request to Tom, it says that the request is sent. Now over here, Tom is logged in to his account, and over here this pop-up shows, and Tom can basically either reject or accept this request. So when the request is accepted, then this card pops up showing that the specific user has a new mentor, essentially, and now that match is basically created. So firstly, now that the match is created, Luis basically has a new mentor, so that you can basically check in his dashboard. You can go to you can go check the list of mentors that he has, which is only one because learner is only limited to one mentor. So when you click here, it shows the mentor that specific learner has, which is Tom over here. And for Tom, when basically they click and check all the learners Tom has, you can see here, this is the learner that Tom has over here, because now they are matched together. So just to show that those documents get saved to the database, firstly for the match request being saved to the database, and then also the actual match documents as well. So here, firstly, when that request is sent to the mentor, then this basically shows, right? At first it was set to pending, but because the mentor accepted the request, the status becomes accepted. So this is the match request that was sent. But after the mentor accepted the request, then the learner and mentor became a match, and then it saves the document as a match. So it shows the mentor's object ID over here and the learner's object ID over here, and they're saved within this document because now they are matched basically. So this is the actual match that took place after the request was accepted. So that's basically how the matching process works. But now let's say another user can also send a request. So as a mentor, you can also send a specific match request as well. So right now Tom as a mentor wants to find learners to match with. So when you click this match learners button, it brings up all these learners that this mentor can potentially match with. So as soon as a specific request is sent to this learner, then it shows the request was sent. Now this specific learner over here basically receives that request, as you can see here in messages. Then they have the option to either accept or reject the request. So to show in the database that the request was sent, we can see here a second match request document is created here, and it shows the status set here as pending. So this is the request that was sent, but in the matches collection, we don't have that specific match document yet because a match wasn't made yet. Reason being is because the status is set to pending, meaning that both users are not matched yet. So this specific user did not accept the request yet. But once the request is accepted, then essentially in the database, a new match is created, as you can see over here. Here's the match that is created. It shows the mentor's ID and that specific learner's ID who accepted the request, and then it shows that specific match as well as the date that match was created. And now this learner can go and see who their mentor is, and when they click here, they see the mentor that they are matched with. And then for the mentor himself, see, they can basically check all the learners that they have. So when they click my learners, this is to see all the learners that that specific mentor has. So now they have 2 learners essentially. Then let's say a user wants to unmatch. So Now this user wants to unmatch with their mentor. As soon as you click unmatch, this dialog box pops up asking if we're sure we want to unmatch, and then you can unmatch with that specific user, and then the unmatch is successful. Then when we refresh this, that document gets deleted. So if you remember in the code, I showed that find by ID and delete method that basically finds that specific match request and deletes it when that unmatch request is sent to the endpoint. So that's basically how the matching functionality works in my Bula Next application.